Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome back to TARTLEcast. You'll be joining us today on an episode with Shumin Luan, data scientist at Boston College. And what we want to do is talk really about Shumin's journey and how Shumin has found himself as a data scientist, why he's chosen to take that path, and why it's important for others moving into the future to learn a little bit about his journey and how they can apply it to their own. Why they should probably take that sort of STEM focus on data science.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Shumin.
Sorry, I cannot hear from Jason. Oh, now it's good. Just cannot a moment ago. Right now it's good. Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. Shumin, thanks for being in the show. Really appreciate it. A question I have for you is, when did this process start where you began to thinking that you wanted to get into data science?
I think it started from the beginning of my early career. My very first job when I was working at a company in Dubai, UAE. I started there as an analytical role for their sales and logistics data analysis. I found that the data science could substantially increase their efficiency on sales and logistics data, strategy, forecasting, and also their operational strategy decisions making. I found there's power of data science that can substantially increase their ability to make better decisions.
So you're saying that the work you did over in the UAE and you saw the value in decision making around data almost reinforced that sort of path that you're taking currently right now professionally as a data scientist. This was like one of those key drivers for you. So you had to actually go experience the use of data firsthand that led you to be like, I see what I need to be doing with this and I see the value of it towards the future.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for some traditional companies, like they didn't use a lot of data analytics to make decisions before, but while recently they are doing the digital transformation, they are transferring from traditional decision-making ways to some decision-making based on data analytics. That's a very common transition for most businesses right now. And I also, from that experience, I found a very good example is a project I did here, because the company there is a very traditional international trading company for engineering equipment. And they were having a business problem that they have very high logistics cost and for their shipments, because it has multiple warehouses for the storage of their products. They usually import those products to store their warehouse and then make shipments to some other countries in Middle East or Europe or Africa. But they were having a problem that they pay a lot of actual payments to their container trucks who would load those products from the warehouse and make shipments, because every time they make a shipment, the container truck has to go to multiple warehouses to load different goods, and they get paid for their actual waiting time they spent at the warehouse. So we were intending to reduce the amount of time they waited there, so that we can reduce logistic cost. But the key is to how to reduce their waiting time. So there comes to some data analytical problems. So I make a proposal that we can reorganize the inventory distribution, so that we need to keep those products that are most likely shipped together, to store together, so that the container trucks literally just go to one place to load the products without spending extra time to go to multiple warehouses to load different products. So the key is to how to find those products that are most likely shipped together correctly.
So you're saying that instead of shipping like a whole slew of different products. What you guys did is use data to analyze which products should be moving with one another to decrease the amount of trips and
Yeah,
therefore the
exactly.
amount of payments that logistics warehouse actually had to go through. So by using data
Yeah,
to find commonalities between products and shipping routes, that was able to decrease the cost for that firm altogether economically.
yeah, exactly. That's absolutely true. It is the case. So there the challenging part is how to find those products that are most likely shipped together correctly, so that once we get this idea, we can just uh, reorganize the inventory distribution to keep those products that are most likely shipped together, so that this can substantially reduce the time that the container trucks spend in our warehouses, and hence reduce our logistic cost.
Now, from a business standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying when you look at data and you're combining these things together, what happens when we step outside economics? What happens when we're analyzing human beings? You're saying that there's benefit if we can find things that there are commonalities between us, and using data analysis through this big data or machine learning affords us the ability to figure out what these commonalities are between people?
Yeah, so in terms of, I found sometimes uh, the this the insights that we glean from data analytics are some counterintuitive to our common sense. So I think that's also the power of data science, of data analytics, because that helps make us make better decisions. So usually we human beings, we make decisions simply based on our own knowledge or our own experience, but we are limited to that. But while data science gives us another approach, which can expand our understanding of what we are doing and give some insights that we are not even aware of, or we don't even know if we don't do such analysis. This can substantially just expand our intelligence and hence make better decisions in our business.
No, I think that's a good point. And Jason, you and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah, no, and I want to get back to kind of your past, Shumin, if that's fine. When was the point? I know you were in when you were in the Middle East, but was there a time when you were before that, high school? That if somebody's listening to this podcast right now and they're kind of wanting to get into data science because this field is growing like crazy, what is
Yeah.
like? Was it before, as a teenager, what was the idea in your head? What were you thinking about wanting to do? Were you wanting to do something else? I'm talking like 16, 17, 18. What were you wanting to do then?
Yeah, actually, that's great question. Actually, in my early, when I was very young, my first dream career is in finance. Like I was fascinated in investment to get uh, profits from simply doing some decisions about choosing the best financial product, best stock um, to get financially reward. But later, actually, how my mind was changed was due to I did an internship in which is also related to finance, but it was quantitative finance. We did a lot of data analytics on uh, stock on different types of data to glean some actual insights on how to make better decisions in investment. But there I started to know the power of data science, like how those data analytics can give us a very much better understanding than our own simply experience or our own thinking, and how that would uh, expand our intelligence. So actually, from that point, I started to know that the data science uh, could be make a huge impact to our not only business but also our economy and our society. This would be definitely be the future that um, we can exploit from data and to make our human intelligence advancing to our next step in the future.
Well, I think that's what it's about.
So
It's all about elevating, humanity with that data, right? And if we can
yeah,
use data to challenge the biases that we've had through our prior experiences, like is what you were talking about before, then we can be, wow,
yeah,
we've actually been making the wrong choice. And now that we can see clearly with all this data through this analysis, this can help move us on to the next step that we need to be going to.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we have, tens of thousands or millions of Shumins across the world, people saying, hey, I've looked at the data, I've analyzed this, this is the path that we really should be looking to take, and this is what we should be taking action on, I think that's going to be a very powerful future. So just to keep this brief, Shumin, what is it that if you were to tell someone that was like a budding engineer or a budding data scientist or someone that is even considering it, what about it from your own mind and your own heart regarding this and how you see the future, what message would you want to deliver to them and tell them right now?
So I think, thank you for the question. I think there are a couple of things that I would like to share to someone that are their early stage of thinking about a career in data scientist. I think the first thing is there as data scientist a more technical role. So first thing is to have a thorough understanding of those techniques like machine learning, statistics, and mathematics that can learn how those things could be combined with our own knowledge and make a greater impact. I think the second thing is there's besides this as the basics of data scientist, I think there are a couple of other things that I would like to share based on my previous experience as data scientist. Because these are something that's not directly related to technical things, but also something are essential as data scientists nowadays in professional settings. The first is to understand the business better, because data scientist is usually like an internal consultant at a company. Its mission is to serve the business, and the better you understand the business, how the business goes, the better you can make, the better decisions you can make. So although data scientist is a more technical role, but in the company you have to contribute to the business values and to make an impact on businesses. So understanding the business is also the key of a data scientist that's working at a professional setting. On top of that, I think another is to have the ability to well communicate with with people that have no technical background. So usually in a professional setting, as a data scientist, you do all your own business. You do all your own analysis. It's very technical, but you usually need to present this to either decision makers or some business partners, and they would implement your findings. For example, your machine learning models or your algorithms for some advanced analytics. Those decision makers or business partners, they would implement your analysis. So it's necessary to have the ability to communicate with people your proposal in a very general words, rather than simply using those very technical words. So communication with those people in a non-technical background also a key as a data scientist. So just to recap, the first is the basic stuff of techniques, and the second is to understand the business well. The third is to communicate with people with a non-technical background.
All right, so that makes sense. So if you are a budding person that's looking to get into this field, and thank you for saying this, Shumin, you want to enhance your background in, mathematics, statistics, computer science. You also have to act as that business consultant, so understanding many different types of businesses and how they work. And then third, learning how to communicate things that are very technical into very simple forms, and not to insult anybody, but when things are very technical, the more you simplify it, essentially the more intelligent you can be in that situation, and the better people are going to receive whatever you're trying to give them. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, I think that's fantastic.
I want to ask one last question before we go, Shumin, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. How do you think data science is going to help humanity, help the globe?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. I think data science, I think here I would like to use uh, Turtle as an example. I think as data is not data nowadays is very valuable asset. It's a very scarce source. So especially from a data science perspective. So that's why when I first hear the idea of Turtle, I was truly fascinated by it because from a data science perspective, um, valuable data is always a scarce resource. Even nowadays, we have too much data around us, but valuable data is always the most scarce source for nowadays whatever business or any organizations. Um, I think, for example, as Turtle is a platform for data sharing and data trading, I think it's pretty much like the invention. It's pretty much like the bank in the financial system or economic system. I think the invention of Turtle is like the invention of banking system in our economic history, because before several hundreds of years before, um, what limit the development of a business or a government is lack of capital. While banking plays a great role, it can gather from get assets from single individuals to gather all of those assets, and then it make loans to either companies or organizations or even government. This could enhance the economic activities and boost economic growth. But nowadays, actually, what limits the development of a company or organization is no longer the lack of capital, because with a mature financial system, they can always get sufficient capital either from loans or different ways of investments. Yeah, so data actually is now the scarce resource for companies and organizations to make better decisions, because they need to forecast either short term and long term of how the environment would be, how their business would be. They need sufficient data to support their decision making. So that's why I think not only data science, but also the sufficient data that we can access are also the key for nowadays businesses and organizations. I think Turtle is like the bank of data that into every single individual, they can contribute their own data, that we can gather all of those data, and then those companies or organizations or governments, they would purchase their data to support their decision making and enhance their strategy to make them moving forward towards to make a better impact. That's why I think data science is playing an increasingly important role in nowadays businesses and organizations for their decision making, while valuable data is being increasingly important for any of the entities in our society to move forward.
Well, listen, you didn't hear it from us. You heard it from Shumin, and the fact is that you can have all the data you want in the world, but unless it's quality data coming from the person, you're going to have a hard time making the right decisions.
Well, yeah, and thanks, Shumin, for being on TCast. We really appreciate you being a guest and taking the time out of your day to come on.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. I really enjoyed this as well.